and talk nutrition to me with Kelly Springer. Kelly, we're ready to roll with a great guest. Who's our guest today?
So today we want to welcome NHL executive and Stanley Cup winning general manager Neil Smith. So best known for leading the New York Rangers in their unforgettable 1994 championship with decades of experience in professional hockey, Neil shares inner stories from behind the bench, insights on leadership under pressure, and what it truly takes to build a winning team on and off the ice. So welcome today, Neil Smith.
It's very nice to be here, and thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to speak with you. And in that NHL world, I have to ask, during your time with the NHL and now, do you work with registered dietitians to get the players the best optimal diet for performance?
They do now, Kelly. They didn't when I was GM of the New York Rangers was 1989 to 2000, and everything was different then because there wasn't a salary cap, there wasn't restricted spending, the players were of a different generation. Everything was different, but I know now they do. In fact, a lot of the teams have their own chef there at the practice arena, making sure that they're eating properly. They're given menus on their off time. So that is something that sports has finally starting to understand how important that is to performance, is nutrition.
Which is exciting, right?
Yeah, it very much is. I wish I could get myself to do as good a nutrition as we try to get the players to do.
We're here for you. And we were talking just before this. This is the first time I've met you and learning your story. But the fact is you're talking a lot about mental health. We were talking about your wife is in that space as well, and that tied to nutrition and mental health as well. There's a lot there that we're learning now. And I'd love to hear your story and why you're doing a podcast with us today.
My life has not just been about winning Stanley Cups and Calder Cups and different things that I have won as a leader of organizations. It's also, I've had a lot of grief and trauma in my life, and unfortunately, but we all have our cross to bear, as they say. And mine has been that when I was 4 years old, actually, my grandfather and grandmother lived with us, and my grandfather died when I was 4. Nobody told me where he went. I just knew he wasn't there, and my grandmother was crying. And when I was 10, my Ozzie and Harriet family had a big blow because my father died in the middle of the night, and I was woken up by everybody crying in the house, wondering why is everyone crying, and being told that my father had passed. And then at 17, my grandmother had cancer and was in the hospital, and I would go to visit her every day because my mother by this time was working in a children's wear store. And I went to see her, and I didn't like the way she sounded. So I asked a nurse, could you help me wake up my grandma because I want to visit her. And when the nurse went to wake her up, she passed away right in front of me. That was very traumatic. And then everything went okay from there on as far as that kind of stuff goes on until my mother thankfully stayed with me until she was 92. And that was back in 2011. And I stayed with her at her bedside while she passed away in a hospital. And I knew that would be the worst day of my life because I was so close with my mother. She was a hockey player. She got me started in hockey, and so she was my best friend in the world, and we had this thing in common. So when she passed, I said to myself, Neil, you've made it through the worst day of your life, and from now on, things will never be that bad. And I was wrong, because 7 years later, my son, who was the love of my life and everything to me, and we did everything together and lived with me, and 21 years old, and had done some things that I didn't know about the night before, which took a lot of the dopamine and serotonin out of his brain. And he got a bad text from a girl, and I just heard the shower go on upstairs. I ran up because this was odd at 9 at night, and thinking, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? I get into his room, get into his bathroom, and I find him convulsing, having already pulled the trigger on something to end his life. And I knew right then that his life was over. But of course, I never expected to see this when I went into I never had any clue that this is what I was going to see. And so here I am holding my only child in my arms, trying to get 911 and all the rest of the things that you do. So then that's the thing that really changed my life. And then I had to find a way through therapy and through other means to survive that. And so here we are 7 years later, and I'm a completely different person than I was before it happened. I'm a much better person, although I would give that back, obviously. But I've changed my life, and I've changed it in ways I never could foresee coming. But my therapist told me, who I still see once a week, I used to see her twice a week. She's a trauma specialist. She said that when I told her he was my whole world, she said, I understand, and now we're going to have to find a lot of smaller things to put them all together to replace that to be your whole world. And I said, you are nuts. That's never going to happen. And sure enough, it has happened to the point where I still carry him with me nonstop every day, 24/7, and the grief of that. But I have other things make me live in the moment, keep going and survive this. And staying present is one of the things that I've really worked hard to do. And that's why it's so great to be on podcasts like this so that you can stay present and stay with the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of the things that you implemented?
There was a lot of little things that I never knew I would do. For example, this is laughable, but I'm the president of the HOA in a community I live in South Carolina that has 400 homes in it. I've been doing that for 6 years, I think. And I know everybody thinks HOA, why would you ever volunteer to do that? You're crazy. But I actually, because I've been from pro sports, it doesn't bother me, the criticism or the whatever. It doesn't bother me. But that's a volunteer. It's again about helping. And I see these things as helping. So I see wanting to help the community. I'm also on a board for the arena we have a really nice Bon Secours Wellness Arena in Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm on the board of that, running the arena. That's a volunteer position, again, just to help. And I do a lot of grief counseling, not in a set-up way, not in a formal way, but in an informal way, so that if I am told about anybody that's suffering through any kind of grief, that I'll approach them right away and tell them my story and make myself vulnerable to them so that they can get some kind of relief out of my story in that they've got somebody that can relate to what they're going through, because often people going through grief don't think that anybody understands. And that's part of the grief process. So when you have someone who says, yeah, I do understand and I know where you're at and I'm still alive after what happened to me, so you will survive, and just can talk to people. So I do a lot of that. And then there's just, it's unbelievable. Other things have just come along the way, and the universe has been very good to me. And I'm doing, I would never have imagined I'd be doing podcasting. That's a volunteer position because we don't make any money out of it. So you do it because you have a passion for it. And so all of these things I have a passion for, but the main thing is, Kelly, I can't stress this enough. It's to keep myself in the present moment. It's just to not go forward and not go backwards in my mind, stay present, because nothing ever happens in life that doesn't happen in the present moment. The present moment is all we have. And once it's gone, we're on to the next present moment and we stay there, and anything that happens in the present moment. So what's the use of thinking about what might happen in the future or what did happen in the past? It's gone. It's not there.
True. Very true. I think that the story, my husband's dad was a psychiatrist. He's now passed, but he said no one escapes life. Everyone's going to get something. And so when you look at people, and that's why I love podcasting and learning about people like yourself, is everyone has a story and everyone has gone through something, and whatever that is, it does shape you and make you who you're going to be.
Exactly. And you're never the same person ever. So there is a Zen saying that no man ever puts his foot into the same river, because the river, the water that you're putting your foot into is not the same water that you put it into last time. And your foot is not the same foot that you put in the water last time, because you've changed. And so we're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving. And if we understand that, then we can get out of this thing about saying that it's putting yourself as the middle of the universe when you're really not. You're just part of the universe that keeps moving and changing, and you've just got to accept that things are moving and changing. And sometimes they're not very good things that are moving and changing. There's death, there's divorce, there's a lot of bad stuff out there. And as you just said, nobody gets out of this alive.
So Neil, so what do you think that this Neil would tell the Neil that was general manager of the New York Rangers and Stanley Cup champion?
Probably to enjoy the ride a lot more than I did, like to relax and realize where you are, and don't doubt yourself as much as you did. And there's a lot of that imposter syndrome that I went through, a lot, believe it or not, depression. And I just realized more about the world today and what the world is and what the universe is than I did then. And back then, my only thought was to win the Stanley Cup. I have to win the Stanley Cup. I have to do that. I have to do it for New York. I spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long, doing nothing but trying to improve the New York Rangers so that we could be the best. And you never know that you're going to win a championship for sure, but you do everything you can to try to make the team as good as you possibly can to give yourself the best chance to win and take away the excuses. But that takes a ton of work and a ton of your mental time. And in sports, you're on a schedule during the season. So you've got a game next week. You've got to think about, you've got what happened last night and what happened. And it's hard to stay present when you're doing that job. So I would tell him to stay more present and enjoy the ride and enjoy life and don't get so wrapped up. Nothing is the center of the universe, not the winning of the Stanley Cup or 10 of them, and just enjoy it more than I guess I did.
I think it's looking back, I'm sure we can all say the same thing of we get so worked up about little things that are going on and it takes over our thought process. But it's hard, I think, when you're in the moment of it, when it shaped who you are today. But hindsight is always, so you can see things a lot clearer.
Of course. And, when you have, I know you both know there's a great book by Viktor Frankl about his time in a concentration camp. And when you get things taken away from you, probably is when you start to figure out other things, because and for Viktor Frankl, his complete freedom and everything got taken away from him. But what his message really is that they can take everything away from you. They can do everything they want, but they can't take your mind away. They can't.
Yep.
They can't stop you from thinking the way you want to think, no matter how much they're torturing you or abusing you or whatever in his situation. And I think also in life, you've just got to hold on tight and stay the course and work hard at it. It's been a lot of hard work for me mentally to get to the place that I'm at right now.
And then that's the thing is when you lose, how do you become resilient? Resiliency is probably the thing that's the hardest thing for human beings. When something really goes wrong or bad, or even how do you respond to it? And Kelly, you've had to be resilient in your career as well.
Every day I have to be resilient. It's not how I wish it was in the past. Every day I'm being hit with another what? Right now, we just had Medicare, because we have the government shutdown. Medicare for telehealth was just shut down. So everyone, probably Neil and your zone, people that are on Medicare don't have access to dietitians telehealth. We were doing care for these people and whoop.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So it's really interesting.
You need to go on the press on that, because guess what? People are not saying those things are not being heard. Neil?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get political in this, but the truth is that's not something they're saying that's happened. So that has to be a news flash. Go ahead.
And this is nationwide. This isn't just here in central New York or state of New York. This is a nationwide problem where people that were receiving care were instantly cut off as of October 1st. So there's just a lot of different things that,
What was their reasoning for cutting that off?
I don't know. That it was up until this moment. I know it was after COVID, they allowed telehealth. And we know that the value of telehealth for rural areas, access to care, and especially in the Medicaid world, people being able to get to the dietitian can be difficult. And so I guess it was up for the next round to be approved, but because there's government shutdown as of October 1st, because there was no approval, it got shut. Yeah. So anyway, that's just one thing of craziness. There's just resiliency, I think, and it's great speaking to you just to put it in perspective of where I'm at. I'm in the rat race right now. I'm in a push scenario. And it's how do I step back a little bit and relax?
And it's hard. It is really hard to do that. And especially, when everything is going good for you. The reason why you're in the push and the rat race is because things are going good for you. If they weren't going good, nobody would be pushing you to get your advice. Nobody would be trying to get you to do that. You'd got no customers, no clients, no nothing. So things are good for you. It's when you hit the unexpected that you go, oh, I should have been thinking about that. That's where my mind should have been instead of on the rat race. But you can't predict that, and you can't, there's no way to do it. So you've got to just take it as it comes. But I find that I listen every day to different things, and I won't go through them because some people might think they're goofy, but I watch YouTubes and different stuff to try to keep myself centered. I just really try, and I've always been that way since I was a small child. My father died, and one of our neighbors gave me a book on believing in yourself or self-improvement and stuff like this. I think I forget I know the author's name, but it'll come to me in a minute. And so from that time on, I've always been into self-improvement and how can I be better, but not in the lifting weights or even in diet or even in anything. It was more mentally. How can I make my brain as good as possible? How can I understand more about the way I think and what I could do differently and how I could approach things? So I've always been that way. Even when things were going great for me, I was still trying to figure out how I could be better. I always wanted to be better in the way I was thinking.
Yeah, that's huge, Neil, in so many ways. And talk about NHL Wraparound and the 100th anniversary to finish up.
Yeah, no, the background there shows you our logo for NHL Wraparound. We have a great podcast for NHL hockey fans that we do almost on a daily basis. We do it we have so many different franchises within NHL Wraparound, Hockey Hall of Fame edition with Hall of Famers. We have short shifts, which is just a catch up on what happened in the last couple of days in games. We have NHL Wraparound, the main show, which is a great guest every week of somebody of notoriety in hockey. And my partner, Vic Morin, and I have a lot of fun doing it, and we get a lot of great people on there. And I think because I'm from the industry, people know I'm not going to ask them something that they don't want to be asked, and we try to be insightful. So our goal is to, if you tune in or you listen to NHL Wraparound, that you'll learn something that you wouldn't have known had you not turned it on. So that's our goal in it. Neil's been helping us get our podcast going in the right direction, and we're certainly very proud of it and hope that we can keep getting more and more clicks on that subscription button.
The good news is I got other news for you next week. I'm not going to announce it here.
I know.
Firming up. No, it's not guaranteed yet. Until it's signed, sealed, and delivered, there's going to be some big news on many ends. And again, Kelly Springer and Kelly's Choice will be an affiliate for Neil Smith's podcast, and people can go ahead and schedule a dietitian through the show. We're just working on tying up those loose ends, and some big things in the works going into 2026, but we got to get through 2025 first.
Well, I think what you're doing, Neil, and other Neil, is all of us working together, right? If we know the other one exists and we can help each other, that's why I love this podcast. And Neil Haley has done such a fantastic job of putting us together. There's another person I just spoke to yesterday that's going to help me with my taxes. Another person's going to help with another thing we're doing. It's really cool when people know about each other. And just thank you to Neil Smith for taking the time to share your story, because I know that so many people can relate to that. And I just appreciate you coming on and taking this 30 minutes to share that.
It's in the interest of helping people. I always feel like if I can help another person somehow, some way, I want to do it. And that helping somebody in any way, shape, or form is a healing mechanism. You're never going to completely heal over what I have gone through, but you can feel good about yourself. And that's a healing in itself. I'm happy to be on here with you, Kelly, and I really wish you all the best of luck and keep going. And you need to get guys like me to see a dietitian. However, I will tell you that I do intermittent fasting and have been doing it for 2 years straight, I think. It's a daily routine for me now. And so if I don't know how dietitians feel about intermittent fasting.
That's going to be an interesting other conversation. We'll have to. All right. ShellWraparound.com, Kelly's Choice.com, and also pick up your book, The New Weight Loss Era. I appreciate everybody, and we will talk soon. That was a special simulcast Neil Hill Show, and Talk Nutrition to me, guys. Take care.